Hello friends, Tanya here for Spellbinders, and today I am playing with the Home Sweet Quilt dies. I'm going to make this super easy. There are several products in this Home Sweet Quilt series. I have 3 of them. This is the French Braid and Hexagon panels, and this is sized to fit on a mini slimline card. This piece here is, I believe, 2 3/4 by 5 3/4 inches long, and these inset pieces will die cut a bunch of stitched quilt style pieces and an outline. This is the log cabin and flower mini quilts, and these create 3-inch squares. Now both of the outline pieces are the same size for each of these die sets. This also includes Quilty Hugs dies. This is the Quilty Hugs Sentiments stamp set. It is a clear stamp set with lots of different sentiments and a few stitched quilt items. They're very cute. I did pause it there so you could read them if you desired. Here I have taped together the different pieces of dies, and I've cut out several versions in 3 different pattern papers and a couple of solid cardstocks. Now I have a white backer for this piece and a white outline piece. I'm going to add some glue to the back of this outline piece, and it's going to help us put together this entire quilt panel, and it will create a lovely border. Most of the beautiful quilts that I see these days have borders around the different blocks, and that's mimicked in this die set. Now the piece of cardstock that I used behind it does not have to be perfect or even your best cardstock. As you could see there, it was a scrap of white cardstock. It's going to be completely covered by our different blocks. I did separate my little pieces according to the die shape and the different pattern papers. I did separate the white from the pattern papers, and I found that a lot easier when I decided to put these blocks together. I'm trying to create different patterns, and there are enough to create at least 4 different blocks with each of these designs because I've cut at least 4 different panels from it. I will be using even the pattern paper borders. And sometimes that looks super busy and sometimes it looks great. But if you've ever had a crazy quilt, that was something that I was used to when I was growing up. A crazy quilt is just a bunch of different patterns used together, and it doesn't have to be a super fancy design or even something you can really see a pattern in with the blocks. We're kind of going to get some of that effect here. I'm going with more of to me this looks like a star design, and I really like the way the rainbow colors work together on this one. I did think about using the pattern papers in these little tiny triangles, but I decided that it would really serve the pattern better if I used the white pieces here. I did use a couple of panels of white, so there are lots of extra pieces of the white blocks here. I'm using my pickup stick here to pick up the little tiny pieces and to help maneuver them into place. I generally will add a dot of glue to several different blocks and then fill them in. Here is the completed block. I really love how that turned out. Here is the second version of pattern papers. The first one was called Bold Rainbows, and it's a Brutus Monroe pattern paper pack. And I don't remember the name of this one, and I actually couldn't find it to link anywhere, but it's plaids and wood grains, and maybe you have some in your stash. My goal is to dig through my stash of pattern papers and other products and make sure that I'm using them and finding great ways to make them beautiful. I thought this was perfect with these quilts dies, because when you make a quilt, you use pattern paper, or excuse me, not pattern paper, but use a colored pattern. You go find some beautiful prints at the fabric store and decide to use those together. I've got a red plaid, I've got a dark wood grain, and I've got a mix of browns with different log ends and some white, and I do use some solid red also in some of the patterns here. Now, I really love this herringbone or French braid style, and I think I ended up making 9 different patterns with this one. I really, really loved it. And I am making all mini slim lines that are 3x6, and I am also making 4-inch square cards. My goal with this bunch of cards was to make things that I could put gift cards in, because when we travel, I always bring thank you cards and add like a $5 gift card to someplace like Starbucks inside that card. And I give those to the people at the airport who help me, at hotels, taxi drivers, those kinds of people who need that little extra thank you, who almost never get that little extra thank you. Now, you could also do this for teachers, mail carriers, delivery people, tellers at your local grocery store, anyone who makes your life easier and run more smoothly. They will actually really have a much better day if you give them a little token of appreciation. It really goes a long way. It doesn't even have to be elaborate. Just the thought that you are recognizing their contributions to your day, and you see them and you appreciate them, it goes a very long way. I am alternating the patterns here with white cardstock, and I am just really enjoying putting these together. Normally, I don't think of paper piecing as something that I would enjoy, but I really found myself enjoying assembling these different patterns into pleasing finished cards. I really did not plan to make 9 of these mini slimline cards, but I found that I just wanted a little more, and then I'd want to use the rest of the pattern paper pieces that I already had, and I might have to go cut a few more pieces of another color. And then that's how I ended up with 9 different patterns. That was all of the French braid one. This is the log cabin version, and I made 5 of those. And these are just the design element. This isn't even the finished cards. And here are the hexagons. The log cabin and the hexagons were all assembled in the same way. Now I have to finish these with some kind of sentiment. So I cut a bunch of the Quilty Hugs sentiments, and I'm not actually going to apply these to every single card, but I do several of them. I laid these on the card after I had die cut them from, it's like a champagne colored gold pearlized paper. I've had it in my stash. Again, trying to use my stash. This is actually something from probably 15 years ago that's been in my stash. I think it's a retired Stampin' Up! Pearlized gold cardstock, metallic brushed gold. I don't even remember what it's called. I just know I've had it in my stash forever, and now seemed like a great time to use it. It kind of has a craft colored vibe to it to me, and I thought that would be perfect with the log cabin, with the plaid and the wood grain and the ends of the logs here. Now I did end up adding another layer of white cardstock behind the shimmery cardstock, because it needed to stand up a little bit to really stand out on this very busy background. I still wanted all of those quilt blocks to shine through that. Inside this 4-inch card, I decided to add a sentiment from the Quilty Hug Sentiment stamp set. I'm using some VersaFine Clair ink here, and I am going to stamp it directly on the inside of this card. Now, typically, I like to use my Misty because it really helps me prevent errors, and I can restamp if I need to. But I did a couple of practice stampings on the back of that scratch paper and went right on the inside of my card. That actually worked out well. I'm trying to do that a little more because we don't actually need the Misty for every single thing we do. And I need to keep my hand stamping, freehand stamping, my clear block stamping skills up. This is the rainbow version, and I'm adhering these to the front of the cards also. I just thought it would be fun to see each of these designs and pattern paper elements with the sentiment over the top. This may look super busy on camera, but in real life, these words stand out beautifully against this very beautiful pattern. I encourage you to dig through your supplies and find pattern papers that you absolutely adore. And when they come in a pattern paper pack, you're almost guaranteed that they'll coordinate well with each other and probably have that lovely balance of small, medium, and large patterns. Here I have all of the cards that I created today. You can take a still shot of those if you'd like. Please give this video a thumbs up. Subscribe to my channel if you haven't done that. Check that description box below for all of the supplies that I've used today. And check out these videos I have here. Until next time, bye-bye.